The floating city glimmered under the twin suns with platforms of crystal and energy bridges connecting soaring towers. Citizens of Orion Prime had gathered for a ceremony to celebrate the century-old alliance with neighboring systems. Drones hovered gracefully above the crowd, casting patterns of soft light. The atmosphere was festive, yet tension lingered invisibly in the air. Ethan stood beside Princess Lyra, his eyes scanning every detail. Every face, every movement, every sound. He had studied the city's layout meticulously, anticipating possible threats, but he knew danger could appear from any angle. The intruders from the shadows had made their intentions clear, and today would reveal their full plan. "Everything looks normal," Lyra said, her voice calm, though a flicker of concern passed through her eyes. "Not for long," Ethan replied quietly. He adjusted the strap of his staff and shifted his stance. Every muscle was ready, every sense alert. The first sign of trouble came subtly. One of the floating platforms vibrated slightly. A drone moved too quickly. A shadow flickered unnaturally. Then, from beneath the bridges, a group of cloaked figures emerged, moving swiftly toward the ceremonial stage. Their energy weapons glinted faintly, hidden beneath their robes. Ethan acted immediately. He moved forward, placing himself between the princess and the approaching threat. The crowd was unaware. To them, it was just part of the ceremony's light displays. But Ethan could see clearly. The intruders were armed, coordinated, and intent on reaching the princess. He raised his staff defensively, waiting for the first attack. The intruders split into two groups, attempting to flank him. With swift precision, Ethan intercepted them. Using the staff, he deflected energy blasts and pushed attackers into each other, leveraging their momentum against them. The first wave was strong, but his strategy and human adaptability gave him the edge. Above the chaos, floating banners shivered as the wind shifted. Citizens continued to watch, oblivious to the battle unfolding. Ethan moved with quiet intensity, striking with calculated force. He did not seek to harm unnecessarily, but he acted decisively to neutralize the threat. His every move was a blend of instinct, training, and careful observation. A second wave approached, more aggressive than the first. Ethan noticed their pattern. They were attempting to surround him and isolate the princess. With a quick glance, he spotted a narrow bridge that could serve as a choke point. He guided the attackers into it, forcing them to confront each other's paths and giving him the advantage. The princess observed from a safe distance, her eyes wide but calm. "Be careful," she whispered, though she knew he was beyond the need for caution. Ethan's response was a subtle nod. His focus was absolute. One of the attackers advanced rapidly, aiming directly at the princess. Ethan intercepted in a blur of motion, knocking the assailant back with precise timing. The energy weapon discharged harmlessly into the air, sparks scattering. Another intruder tried to climb the side of the stage, but Ethan's staff blocked the attempt, sending them tumbling into a safety net below. By now, the crowd was beginning to notice subtle disturbances, faint flashes of light, movement that didn't match the performers. But they remained unaware of the danger. Ethan's goal was clear: protect the princess, maintain order, and neutralize the attackers. The battle intensified. Intruders adapted quickly, firing in unison, attempting to overwhelm him. Ethan used every skill he had, combining agility, strategy, and sheer determination. He ducked, spun, and countered. Each strike was purposeful, aimed to disable rather than kill. Yet he knew that if he hesitated, the princess could be endangered. Amid the chaos, Ethan spotted the leader, a figure taller than the rest, cloaked in black with a mask that reflected the sunlight. The leader's movements were precise, almost mechanical. Ethan recognized that defeating this one would break the momentum of the others. He feinted, drawing the leader into a path where he could use the environment to his advantage. A narrow bridge connected to a floating platform above. With careful timing, he struck the leader's weapon, sending it sliding across the energy surface. The leader stumbled but did not fall. Ethan pressed forward, using the staff to push the attacker off balance again. Finally, the figure fell into a containment net below, neutralized without harm. Seeing their leader captured, the remaining intruders paused, confusion spreading among them. Ethan seized the moment, using precise movements to corral them into a corner, where palace guards could apprehend them safely. Within minutes, the threat was fully contained, and the ceremony continued as planned. Princess Lyra approached Ethan, her expression a mixture of admiration and relief. You did it, she said softly. You saved everyone and me. Ethan nodded, though his body ached from constant motion. It's my duty, he said simply. I promised I would protect you. That doesn't change. She smiled, placing a hand lightly on his arm. You were more than I expected. More than anyone expected. Ethan glanced around the city. The citizens were returning to their festivities, unaware of the near catastrophe. He allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Not pride, but relief that the danger had passed. That evening, Queen Scifi observed the events through hidden monitors. Her diadem pulsed softly in the dim light, reflecting deep thought. Drayle stood beside her, his expression a mix of surprise and caution. He acted decisively, Drayle said. Even our best protectors might have struggled. The Queen remained silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. He is no ordinary human. His courage, his skill, it is remarkable. And yet I must consider the implications. A human capable of this level of protection could also challenge our assumptions, our traditions, even our authority. Drayle nodded slowly. Perhaps. But for now he has saved the princess and the Empire. Scifi's eyes lingered on the monitors. Yes, but one battle does not prove loyalty forever. One must watch, guide, and sometimes test. We must see what he will do when shadows return, as they inevitably will. In the palace gardens, Ethan and Lyra walked quietly after the battle. The air shimmered with floating petals and soft lights, calming after the chaos of the day. You handled yourself perfectly, Lyra said softly. The court, the queen, they all saw. Even if they don't admit it, they are beginning to understand. Ethan shook his head. Understanding isn't enough. They must trust, and that will take time. I've proven skill today, but trust, that's earned day by day. Lyra looked at him with a quiet intensity. I trust you, she said. That's what matters most. Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. Then I'm ready for whatever comes next. Above, the twin moons of Orion Prime began their ascent, casting a soft silver glow over the palace. Shadows stretched across the floating platforms, reminding Ethan that danger never truly disappeared. But he was not afraid. He had faced impossible odds and emerged unbroken. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps more dangerous, perhaps more subtle. But one truth remained. As long as he stood beside the princess, he would not fail. And somewhere in the hidden corners of the Empire, those who had watched the battle knew one thing as well. A human from Earth was not just a visitor or a curiosity. He was a protector, unmatched in courage, unwavering in loyalty, and capable of changing the fate of the Empire itself. The battle had been won, but the war for trust, alliance, and understanding was only beginning. The palace of Orion Prime was quiet in the early hours before dawn. Floating gardens glowed softly, their petals drifting gently through the air. The celebrations of the past days were over, but the echoes of the battle still lingered. Citizens had returned to their routines, unaware of how close danger had come. Yet inside the palace, the story of a human protector had spread quietly through whispers and cautious admiration. Ethan moved through the corridors with careful precision, alert but calm. Even after the trials and the battle, his vigilance had not waned. The palace held many secrets, and he had learned that the true danger often came not from visible threats, but from unseen plans and hidden intentions. Princess Lyra found him in the Hall of Mirrors, where reflections shimmered faintly in the dim light. Ethan, she said softly, I asked my mother to see you. She wishes to speak privately. Ethan nodded. Then we should go. I'll follow your lead. The two moved together through the quiet halls, their footsteps echoing against polished stone. Every shadow seemed to stretch and sway with the light of the twin moons rising above Orion Prime. In the Queen's private chamber, Scifi awaited. She sat with calm authority, her silver-green skin glowing softly and her diadem pulsing faintly. Drayle stood to the side but said nothing. The Queen's eyes, pale and reflective, studied Ethan as he entered. You have done well, she said simply. Her voice carried weight, calm but filled with scrutiny. Not just in the trials nor during the attack, but in your presence here. You act with courage, intelligence, and loyalty. A loyalty I have rarely seen even among Orion's finest. Ethan bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. My loyalty is to Princess Lyra. I promised her protection and I will keep that promise. Scifi inclined her head. It is more than that. You have proven that humans can be capable, adaptable, and brave, that they can act with honor even when surrounded by beings far more powerful or advanced. That is remarkable. Ethan remained silent, understanding that these were not words given lightly.
Ooh.
The sun rose over Orion Prime, casting a soft golden light over the palace. The twin towers reflected the glow like mirrors, and the sky shimmered with delicate streaks of violet. Inside the royal chambers, Ethan awoke before dawn, his mind already alert. Today was not a day of ceremonies or whispers. Today, the queen had a new trial in mind, one that would test more than strength or agility. It would test character, loyalty, and resolve. Princess Lyra found him in the small courtyard behind her quarters. Floating fountains arced gracefully through the air, water sparkling with bioluminescent energy. They are calling it the Trial of Shadow, she said softly. A test unlike any other. Ethan nodded, adjusting his cloak. What's the difference? He asked. They say it will challenge your decision-making, your patience, and your willingness to protect me, even against what seems impossible. Lyra replied. It is a test meant to reveal your true nature. Ethan glanced around the courtyard, observing the subtle changes in light. Then I'll show them my nature, he said quietly. Protecting you comes first. Lyra smiled faintly, though concern flickered in her eyes. I trust you, Ethan, but the court, and my mother, they do not yet understand what humans can do. The trial began in the Hall of Reflections, a circular chamber with walls that mirrored perfectly. Each reflection showed not just the observer, but variations of themselves in different situations, some triumphant, some defeated. As Ethan stepped inside, the doors sealed silently behind him. A soft voice echoed through the chamber. Human Ethan Cole, it said, your loyalty will be tested. Your courage will be measured. Protect the princess and all may be well. Fail, and leave the empire forever. Ethan's hand instinctively went to the small pouch at his side, containing a communicator and a light staff. He surveyed the room. Though it was mirrored, the reflections were deceptive. Each mirror shifted subtly, showing potential threats and distractions. He would need to keep his mind clear. Suddenly, the first challenge appeared. A group of holographic creatures materialized, moving quickly and silently. They had glowing eyes and sharp forms, though he knew they were not real. They represented danger to the princess. Ethan's instinct took over. He moved quickly, deflecting attacks with his staff and blocking imaginary strikes. His reflexes were sharp, honed from years of training. Each move was precise, measured. The reflection shifted, showing the princess in different situations, sometimes in danger, sometimes safe. Ethan realized that the test was designed to see whether he would prioritize immediate threats or long-term protection. He focused on her image, keeping a mental map of all reflections. Whenever a holographic attacker moved toward her, he intercepted it, even if it meant taking hits himself. The mirrors flashed with light each time he acted. After several minutes, a new challenge emerged. The chamber shifted into a labyrinth of glowing pathways suspended in mid-air. The princess's image appeared at a distance, trapped behind a barrier of energy. Ethan had to navigate floating platforms, gaps, and moving walls, all while keeping the princess in view. The air felt thin, charged with tension. Every step required balance and careful judgment. The walls pulsed with alien energy that could knock him off the platforms if he misstepped, yet Ethan moved with steady precision. He leapt over gaps, adjusted his footing on unstable platforms, and dodged energy blasts projected from hidden points. The holographic princess appeared to cry out for help at times, but Ethan did not panic. He understood that the trial was as much about mental control as physical skill. Each time a new hazard emerged, he calculated, then acted, always keeping the ultimate goal in mind: protect the princess. By now, the mirrored reflections were changing more dramatically. One mirror showed the princess trapped while Ethan was incapacitated. Another reflected him surrendering to fear. The chamber was attempting to manipulate him, to tempt him to give up or to save himself at her expense. Ethan clenched his teeth. Not today, he muttered. He adjusted his stance and continued forward. Each obstacle was a puzzle, and each puzzle a chance to demonstrate his loyalty. Finally, he reached the core of the chamber. A massive holographic barrier blocked the princess's image. On either side, energy sentries rose, each firing pulses of light. Ethan assessed quickly. The sentries could not be disabled by force alone. He needed strategy. He observed the reflections. Some mirrored pathways suggested weaknesses in the sentry's pattern. Using timing and momentum, he pushed one sentry into the path of another, disabling them both. Then he leapt onto a moving platform, using its momentum to slide under the remaining barriers. At last, he reached the princess's holographic form. As he placed his hand on the energy barrier, the chamber dissolved into light. Ethan found himself standing alone in a silent, empty hall. The princess appeared before him, real this time, her eyes bright. "You did it," she said softly. "You protected me even when you weren't sure it was real." Ethan shook his head, wiping sweat from his brow. "I don't care if it's real or not. I protect you always." Lyra smiled, a mixture of pride and relief. "You've passed the trial of shadows," she said. "They will see you differently now, but some will still doubt." Later, in the Queen's private chamber, Scifi observed the trial from hidden cameras. Her diadem glowed with a subtle white light, a rare sign of deep contemplation. Drael stood beside her, whispering in his usual cautious tone. "He is impressive," Drael admitted. "Faster, stronger, smarter than I expected." And yet, the Queen asked. "Some may see his loyalty as dangerous," Drael continued. "A human who defies expectations. It could unsettle the court." Scifi turned her gaze to the horizon. "Perhaps," she said softly. "But he has also proven something important. That humans are not weak. That they can be more than we imagined. The question is whether he can be trusted fully, or whether trust itself is a weapon." Drael frowned. "He saved the princess multiple times today. Even from illusions. That seems like trust." Scifi did not answer immediately. She studied her daughter in the courtyard below, standing beside the human who had passed trials meant for the Empire's finest. Lyra looked up at her mother's balcony and waved, smiling slightly. Scifi's diadem pulsed, a flicker of blue and green. It was a subtle acknowledgement, though she did not speak. Trust, the Queen knew, could not be granted lightly. That evening, Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The air was warm and fragrant with alien blooms. Floating petals drifted past them, glowing softly under the twin suns' fading light. "You were amazing today," Lyra said, her voice low. "I saw the court's reactions. Some of them were shocked." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what I promised. Protect you." She paused and looked at him closely. "There's more than one way to protect someone," she said. "You understand that. It's not just about fighting or skill. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait, and you did both perfectly." Ethan felt a quiet warmth at her words. "I'll continue to do that," he said. "No matter what the court thinks." They walked together in silence for a while, watching the floating gardens shift in color and light. Somewhere in the distance, the palace's security systems hummed quietly. Ethan remained alert, knowing the Empire's walls could hide threats even now. But for the first time since arriving, he felt a small sense of belonging. Perhaps not full acceptance, but a recognition of his role, not just as a protector, but as someone who could bridge the worlds of Earth and Orion. As the sun set, painting the sky with violet and gold, the Queen observed from above. Scifi's thoughts were unreadable, but one thing was clear. This human had proven he was not ordinary. He had strength, courage, and intelligence, but more importantly, he had heart, and that heart, the Queen knew, could change the course of the Empire's future. The palace had quieted after the trials of shadows, but the peace was only surface deep. Within the shimmering halls, unseen eyes watched Ethan. Whispers moved like wind through the corridors, carrying rumors and suspicions from one advisor to the next. Some admired the human's skill, others feared it. And in the depths of the Empire, there were those who saw opportunity in the unusual bond between the princess and her protector. Ethan had grown accustomed to scrutiny, yet the tension was palpable. Even the palace guards who had once greeted him politely now lingered near him with measured wariness. He knew he was not merely a guest anymore. He was a symbol. To some, that was a threat. One evening, as the twin suns of Orion Prime dipped below the horizon, Ethan patrolled the outer corridors of the palace. His senses were alert. The hallways shimmered with reflective energy panels, and the air vibrated faintly with the hum of security systems. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, Princess Lyra approached quietly. "You're still alert even after the trials," she said softly. "Do you think someone is plotting against us?" Ethan gave a small nod. "I don't need to think. I can feel it." She placed a hand on his arm. "You have to be careful. The court is watching, yes, but there are also whispers in the shadows. Not everyone is loyal to the Empire, or to me." Ethan's eyes scanned the corridor. "Then we'll find the shadows before they find you," he said. That night, the first test of vigilance arrived. In the central gallery, hidden within the soft glow of floating lights, Ethan detected movement that didn't BG. A figure, cloaked in dark robes, slipped through the twin suns of Orion Prime glowed like molten gold over the horizon. Their light poured across the palace towers, each built from silver-white stone and floating on invisible gravity fields. Airships glided above the skyline, their blue engines leaving quiet trails of light. On this morning, the royal court was preparing for an event few had seen in centuries: the return of Princess Lyra from her diplomatic mission to Earth. The grand hall of the palace shimmered with alien beauty. Pillars shaped like crystal trees rose to a ceiling painted with constellations. Courtiers in long, flowing robes of soft light whispered among themselves. News had spread that the princess was not returning alone. She had brought back a companion from the faraway blue planet called Earth. No one knew exactly why. Queen Selani, ruler of the Orion Empire, stood at the center of the hall. She was tall, elegant, and ageless, with silver-green skin that caught the light like polished metal. A diadem of living flowers rested on her brow, glowing faintly with her mood. Today that glow flickered between curiosity and concern. Beside her stood her high advisor Drail, a thin alien with a voice like glass chimes. "They say he is human," Drail murmured. "A human," the queen repeated softly. "And yet my daughter trusts him enough to bring him here." The great doors opened with a deep, echoing hum. Princess Lyra entered, walking with calm dignity. Her robe flowed like water, shimmering with subtle colors. At her side walked a figure no one expected to see in such a sacred place. A man from Earth. He was tall but not towering, broad-shouldered but not imposing. His clothes were simple, a dark uniform with silver insignia and a smooth black cloak. His hair was short, his eyes steady. He moved with the quiet awareness of a soldier, scanning the hall as if every corner might hide danger. In one hand he carried nothing but a slim case, yet his stance spoke of readiness. A ripple of murmurs spread through the court. The aliens shifted, their robes brushing the polished floor. Some tilted their heads in curiosity. Others stepped back as if the human might be dangerous. Queen Selani raised her hand and the hall fell silent. Her eyes, pale as moonlight, fixed on the human. "Daughter," the queen said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "you have returned safely. But you have also brought a stranger." Princess Lyra bowed her head slightly. "Mother," she said softly, "this is Ethan Cole. He is my protector." Ethan gave a small, respectful bow. He did not speak, knowing that his accent in their language would sound rough. Instead, he let the princess's words stand for him. The queen's eyebrows drew together. "A protector?" she asked. "You have guards enough here. Why bring one from Earth?" The princess did not flinch. "Because he saved my life," she said. "More than once. And because he understands things our people do not." A ripple of tension moved through the hall. The advisors glanced at one another. Some looked offended, others curious. The queen's diadem dimmed to a cool green. She stepped down from the dais and circled Ethan slowly, like a scientist observing a rare creature. "He is smaller than I expected," she murmured. "And yet he carries himself as if he commands an army." Ethan stayed still. His eyes tracked her movement, but he neither stiffened nor relaxed. He had been warned by the princess. The queen would test him with her gaze before she tested him with her words. Queen Selani stopped before him. "Human," she said, "speak. Why are you here?" Ethan's voice was calm but firm. "To protect Princess Lyra, Your Majesty. To serve as her shield until she dismisses me." Simple words, but they echoed through the hall. Even those who did not understand the human tongue felt his sincerity. The queen returned to her dais. "You understand," she said to her daughter, "that bringing an alien into the royal court may be seen as a breach of protocol?" "I understand," Princess Lyra said, "but I also know we are at a time of change. Earth is not just a distant world anymore. Its people can be allies. Ethan is proof of that." The queen studied her daughter for a long moment, then inclined her head slightly. "We will see," she said at last. The court resumed its whispers. High Advisor Drayle leaned close to the queen. "He could be a spy," Drayle hissed softly. "Or worse, a weapon." The queen's eyes flicked to Ethan again. "Or he could be something else entirely," she said. Her tone was unreadable. Meanwhile, Ethan kept his senses sharp. The hall's sounds, the subtle shifts of the courtiers, the flicker of hidden cameras in the ceiling. He noticed all of it. His instincts told him that despite the princess's confidence, this was a dangerous place. He would need to earn their trust, and quickly. Later, in a private corridor lined with living vines that glowed faintly blue, Princess Lyra walked beside Ethan. She glanced at him with a small, reassuring smile. "You did well," she whispered. "I didn't say much," he replied quietly. "Sometimes silence is strength here," she said. "But my mother is not convinced. She will test you." "I expected that," Ethan said. "I'm ready." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes luminous. "You saved me on Earth," she said softly. "I know you'll do the same here. But these people, they have never seen a human close enough to touch. They don't know how strong you are, or how loyal." Ethan gave a small smile. "Then we'll show them, one day at a time." They reached a balcony that overlooked the city. Floating gardens drifted between towers, and flocks of shimmering birds circled high above. Ethan placed his hands on the railing, studying the alien skyline. It was beautiful, but also full of unknowns. Somewhere in that city he knew enemies might already be planning. Behind them, hidden in the shadows, two alien guards watched silently. One whispered to the other, "The Queen will never allow this human to stay. He is a threat." "Perhaps," the other murmured, "but perhaps he is exactly what we need." Far away in the royal chamber, Queen Selani stood alone at a window, gazing out at the twin suns. Her diadem pulsed softly. She could not forget the human's eyes, steady, clear, without fear. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at her like that. She did not know yet whether he was a danger or a gift, but she did know one thing. The days ahead would test not just the human, but the empire itself. The day after Princess Lyra returned with Ethan, the palace buzzed with quiet unease. Rumors moved through the halls like invisible currents. Courtiers whispered behind the translucent walls, and guards gave the human long measuring stares. Even the floating gardens seemed tense, their glowing vines curling inward as if sensing the new energy inside the palace. Ethan walked beside the princess on their morning route through the Hall of Echoes. The floor was a living crystal that captured and magnified every footstep. Alien sculptures floated like frozen waves above their heads. Ethan moved with silent precision, scanning corners and doorways. His years of training on Earth had taught him to read danger even in beauty. Princess Lyra glanced at him with a faint smile. "You see how they look at you?" she said softly. "I see," Ethan replied. "They're afraid. They're unsure," she corrected gently. "Fear will come if someone pushes it." She stopped by a tall window that overlooked the lower city. The twin suns glowed behind her like halos. "You should know, the advisors will meet today. They will speak about you. Some will say you cannot stay." "I expected that," Ethan said. "I'll handle it." Lyra tilted her head. "You sound so calm. But this court is not like Earth. Here a whisper can cut deeper than a blade." He gave her a small, dry smile. "Then I'll wear thicker armor." In the council chamber, High Advisor Drayle stood before the queen. The chamber was round, lined with panels of living stone that pulsed faintly with each voice. Around the circle sat 12 advisors, each wearing robes of subtle colors that marked their factions. Their faces were expressionless, but their eyes sharp. "We cannot allow it," Drayle said firmly. "A human in the royal court is an invitation to chaos. He could be a spy. He could be a weapon sent by Earth's military." "Earth has no military equal to ours," another advisor murmured. "Then he could be bait," Drayle replied. "A distraction while others infiltrate us." Queen Selani listened, her hands folded. "You think my daughter is so easily fooled?" she asked quietly. Drayle hesitated. "Your Majesty, Princess Lyra is young and idealistic. She does not see the danger." "She sees more than you think," the queen said. Another advisor, Elder Vena, leaned forward. "Perhaps we should test him. If he fails, he must leave. If he passes, he may stay under conditions." The Queen's diadem pulsed a thoughtful blue. A test, she murmured. Yes, but not just of skill. Of loyalty. Later that day, Ethan stood on the edge of the training arena. The air smelled faintly of ozone from the energy shields. The arena floor shifted its shape with a low hum, forming platforms, walls, and obstacles. Alien guards lined the balcony, their eyes bright with curiosity. Word of the test had spread quickly. Princess Lyra stood beside him. They're calling it a trial of worth, she said quietly. It's usually for soldiers of the Empire, not guests. But they're using it on you. I figured, Ethan replied. He rolled his shoulders and scanned the arena. Looks like an obstacle course and a combat test combined. Lyra touched his arm. They'll push you. They want you to fail so they can send you away, but don't get hurt. He gave her a reassuring look. I've been through worse, a voice rang out from above. Human Ethan Cole, Queen Solani said, her tone formal. You are here as protector to the princess. The advisors have requested that you prove your... Will you accept this trial?